Welcome back to the Stoic journey. Picture yourself sitting quietly by a calm lake, gently tossing breadcrumbs into the water. At first, it's just you and the ripples spreading out on the surface, but then a fish swims up, curious about the breadcrumbs. You keep tossing more, and soon more fish start to gather, drawn in by the promise of food. This scene is a lot like how you should attract them in your life. When you run after someone, it's like scaring away birds in a forest by making too much noise. But when you stay calm and settled like that quiet spot by the lake, people are naturally drawn to you. They come because they like your calm confidence, not because you chase them down. Each time you desperately try to get someone's attention, it's like throwing breadcrumbs in the wind. They just blow away, and you're left with nothing. But when you let them come to you on their own, they really get to see and appreciate who you are. They come closer because they're interested in the strong, peaceful vibe you give off, not because you're forcing it. Think about it. Being desperate is loud and messy, and it pushes them away, but being confident is quiet and draws them in. You don't need to shout to be seen. Just being yourself is enough. And that's what attracts others. Imagine your life is like a beautiful garden. Butterflies will come more often when the garden is well cared for, not when the gardener runs around trying to catch them. So make your life like that garden. Work on your hobbies, learn new things, and take good care of yourself. They are like butterflies. They like to go where they find good things waiting for them, like growth, beauty, and peace. So here's what you should tell yourself. I am a beacon. Let this idea guide you. Stoicism teaches us that the strongest person is calm and in control of themselves. Your calm confidence is what will bring the right people to you. Stand strong, be true to who you are, and watch as the world comes to you, just like that quiet spot by the lake or a beautiful garden. Be a peaceful and inviting presence in the busy world. This isn't about just waiting around. It's about being so good at being yourself that you become a magnet for others. And trust me, you don't want to miss a single moment of this journey. Stay tuned till the very end, because each tip we're going to share is a step closer to mastering the art of attraction. There's a magical shift that happens when you apply these principles. Suddenly, you find that you're not just attracting others, but you're also attracting a better, more confident version of yourself. Watch every second, absorb every word, and transform your approach to relationships starting today. 1. The art of subtle presence. All right, folks, let's get into our first point. The art of subtle presence. It's a powerful way to attract someone in a relationship without chasing them or trying too hard. Imagine it like this. Instead of running after people, you become the kind of person they want to come to. It's about drawing them in naturally with who you are, without all the noise and effort. This is exactly what Stoicism teaches, finding strength in calmness and letting people be drawn to that. Picture this. You walk into a room, maybe it's a party or a small gathering. You don't barge in trying to make everyone notice you. Instead, you walk in with quiet confidence. You smile when you make eye contact with someone. You nod. You're present. You're not the loudest person in the room, but somehow people start noticing you. They're drawn to you because there's something calm and collected about your presence. This is what subtle presence is all about. It's the power of being comfortable in your own skin. When it comes to relationships, subtlety is key. We've all seen, or maybe even been, the person who tries too hard to impress someone, whether it's sending one too many texts, over-explaining yourself, or constantly seeking validation. But what does that really do? It pushes people away. It shows that you're chasing them, that you need their attention to feel good about yourself, And that's the quickest way to lose someone's interest. Why? Because nobody is attracted to neediness. Think about it like this. Have you ever been to the beach, standing in the shallow water, and tried to grab a handful of sand? The harder you squeeze, the more the sand slips through your fingers. But if you keep your hand open and let the sand settle in, it stays. Relationships are the same way. The more you try to hold on to someone, the more they slip away, but if you let things flow naturally, they stay. Now, let's flip the script. Imagine you're in a relationship, or maybe there's someone you really like, but they've been distant. Instead of trying to chase them down, or figure out why they're not giving you attention, you step back. You stop sending those extra texts. You stop overthinking everything they do, and you focus on yourself. You become the calm in the storm. You take care of your own life, your passions, your hobbies, your well-being. You're still there, but you're not chasing. That's when the shift happens. When you stop chasing, you create space, and in that space, people start to notice. They begin to wonder what you're up to, why you're not clinging to them like before. They miss the attention, but more than that, they become curious about you again. That's the beauty of subtle presence. It makes people wonder. It's like the quiet allure of a sunset. You don't shout about how beautiful it is, but people stop and stare because it draws them in naturally. Here's a real-world example. Let's say you've been dating someone and things are starting to feel off. Instead of panicking and trying to fix everything by being more available or doing more for them, you give them and yourself some breathing room. Maybe you don't respond to their text immediately. Maybe you focus on your own plans for the weekend instead of waiting for them to invite you somewhere. This doesn't mean you're playing games or trying to be manipulative. It just means you're not chasing. You're letting things unfold naturally. And trust me, this shift in energy is powerful. Suddenly, they're the ones who start wondering about you. They start thinking, why isn't this person all over me anymore? That's when they come to you. But I get it. Stepping back isn't easy. We've been conditioned to think that if we care about someone, we need to show it constantly. But sometimes, the best way to show your value is by giving space. The legendary Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This means you need to define who you are first, stand firm in your worth, and let everything else follow. When you focus on building yourself up, people are drawn to your strength and independence. Now, here's where the real magic happens. The less you chase, the more you become the person people want to be around. Think about the most attractive people you know. Are they the ones who are always available, always giving too much? Or are they the ones who have their own thing going on, who seem fulfilled on their own? That's the secret right there. People are naturally drawn to those who don't need them to feel complete. Let's put it this way. In a healthy relationship, both people should be like two strong trees growing next to each other. They don't grow by leaning on each other or twisting around one another. They stand tall and grow on their own, but they enjoy being close, sharing the same space. This is the power of subtle presence in relationships. You're not dependent on someone else for your happiness, but you make them feel good just by being who you are. Here's another metaphor to think about. Imagine you're at a campfire. The flames are warm and comforting, but if you get too close, you'll get burned. If you stand too far away, you'll miss the warmth entirely. The sweet spot is somewhere in between. Relationships are like that campfire. You have to keep just enough distance to let things breathe, but stay close enough to feel the connection. That's what subtle presence does. It creates that perfect balance where the other person feels drawn to you, but they're not suffocated by your need for attention. So how do you start practicing this subtle presence in your own life? First, stop overthinking every little thing. If they don't text back right away, don't panic. If they seem distant, don't assume the worst. Instead, focus on what you can control, your own life. Take up that hobby you've been meaning to try, spend time with friends, work on your goals. When you invest in yourself, you become more attractive without even trying. Wrap this up. Remember this: you are not someone who needs to chase. You are someone who draws people in naturally by being calm, confident, and focused on your own life. Let them come to you. Don't be the one running through the woods chasing birds away. Be the tree that stands strong, and the birds will come to rest in your branches. So here's my challenge to you. Stop chasing. Stop trying to control everything. Trust in yourself, in your worth, and in the natural flow of things. When you do, you'll see that people are naturally drawn to your subtle presence, and that's when real connection begins. 2. The charm of unpredictability. So folks, let's dive into our next point, the charm of unpredictability. Now this one's fun because it taps into something deeply psychological. They are naturally drawn to what they can't fully figure out. When you're a bit unpredictable, you create a sense of mystery, excitement, and curiosity, which makes you irresistible. The key here is subtlety. This isn't about being flaky or unreliable, but about adding just the right touch of surprise that keeps others intrigued. Imagine you're watching a movie. If you knew every single twist before it happened, you'd get bored, right? Relationships work in much the same way. If you're too predictable, always doing the same thing or being available all the time, there's no excitement left. You become the easy-to-read novel people finish quickly and forget. But add a little unpredictability, and suddenly you become that thrilling page-turner they can't put down. They don't know what's coming next, and that keeps them hooked. A great way to think about this is with Stoic wisdom. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In relationships, that means embracing the unexpected, allowing room for spontaneity, and not sticking rigidly to a script. It's about being flexible and open to change, which keeps things exciting. Let's take a real-life example. Imagine you're texting someone you're interested in. Instead of responding the same way every time, or always being the one to initiate, switch it up. Maybe you don't reply right away, or you suggest something out of the ordinary. When they ask what you're doing, let them guess a little about where they stand with you. This unpredictability creates curiosity, and when people are curious, they are invested. Here's where humor comes in. Think about those moments when you throw in a playful comment or do something unexpected, like sending a funny meme or making a spontaneous plan. That unpredictability doesn't just keep things light, it keeps things exciting. It shows that you're not just following a routine, but you're actively engaging with them in a fresh, fun way. But again, let's be clear, unpredictability doesn't mean being unreliable. There's a fine line between being exciting and being someone people can't depend on. The charm comes from keeping them on their toes without making them feel like they can't trust you. Think of it like cooking with spice. Just the right amount adds flavor, but too much can ruin the dish. And here's the truth. People are naturally drawn to what they can't fully grasp. They chase after what's elusive. When you're unpredictable in a good way, you're offering something that can't be easily pinned down or controlled. It's like being the cool breeze on a hot day, refreshing, unexpected, and completely welcome. So to sum it all up, unpredictability is one of the most powerful tools you have to draw someone in naturally. You're not chasing them. You're simply being interesting enough for them to keep coming back. Keep them guessing. Keep them wondering what's next, and you'll find that they're the ones starting to chase you. Here's my motivational thought for you. Life's too short to be predictable. Be a bit of a mystery. Keep people on their toes, and you'll find that they're naturally drawn to you. Remember, you don't need to force anyone's attention. You just need to be the person they can't stop thinking about. So go out there, shake things up, and let them come to you wondering what amazing thing you'll do next. And before we move on to the next point, if you're enjoying these insights and finding them useful, make sure to hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs to hear this. Also, subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on more powerful tips to level up your relationships with Stoic wisdom. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for the rest of the video, because the next points are going to take things to the next level. So stay tuned till the end. It's only getting better from here. 3. Self-care as a magnet. So folks, let's dive into our third point, self-care as a magnet. Now, I know when people hear self-care, they think about spa days, face masks, or long baths, and sure, that's part of it. But self-care in relationships is so much deeper than that. It's about taking care of your mind, your body, and your spirit in a way that naturally makes others want to be around you. Remember, the core of our topic is don't chase, draw them in, and self-care is one of the best ways to do that. Think about it. When you take good care of yourself, you radiate confidence and positivity. You become like a magnet. People are drawn to those who seem comfortable in their own skin, who are happy on their own, and who don't need constant attention or validation from others. It's incredibly attractive when someone is centered and doesn't rely on a relationship to define their worth. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine two people. One is constantly checking their phone, waiting for a text, always feeling anxious about whether their partner is paying attention to them. The other person is focused on their own life. They're out there working on their goals, hitting the gym, hanging out with friends, enjoying hobbies, and not stressing about their partner's every move. Now, who do you think is more attractive? The person who's obsessing over someone else, or the one who's busy living their best life? Exactly. The person who's fully invested in themselves naturally draws people in. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. In relationships, self-care is about reacting to things in a calm, controlled way. When you take care of yourself, you're better equipped to handle relationship challenges with grace and poise. You're not chasing someone for attention because you already know your value. You don't need anyone else to make you feel good about yourself. You've got that covered. Humor time. Think about self-care like charging your phone. If you keep running on 1%, you're going to be anxious, checking every second to see if your battery is dying. But when you're fully charged, you can go out, use your phone freely, and not worry about running out of juice. Self-care is the emotional equivalent of staying fully charged. When you're recharged, you're not chasing after people to fill your emotional tank. Now, self-care isn't just about making yourself feel good. It's about showing others that you respect yourself. When you treat yourself well, you teach others how to treat you. You're setting the standard. You're saying, this is how I expect to be treated, because this is how I treat myself. And guess what? People will rise to meet that standard. You're not chasing them to love you. They're coming to you because they see that you already love yourself. Let's wrap this up with something motivational. If you want to attract the right people, stop focusing on them and start focusing on you. Invest in yourself, whether that's through physical care, emotional care, or spiritual growth. The more you care for yourself, the more others will be drawn to you. You won't have to chase them because they'll be running towards you, wanting to be part of your radiant energy. You are the prize. Remember that. Take care of yourself and let the right people come to you naturally. 4. Confidence over neediness. So folks, let's dive into our next point. Confidence over neediness. This is one of the most critical aspects of any relationship, and it ties directly into our core topic. Don't chase, draw them in. Confidence is like a magnetic force. It pulls people toward you without you having to lift a finger. But neediness, well, that's like wearing a sign that says, "I don't trust myself, so I need you to make me feel good." And that, my friends, is a fast track to driving someone away. Let's put this into a different perspective. Imagine you're walking through a park and you see two people. One is calmly sitting on a bench, reading a book, completely at ease. They don't seem to care who's watching or what's happening around them. The other person is pacing nervously, looking around, constantly trying to catch people's attention. Who do you find more interesting? The person sitting on the bench, right? They're relaxed, confident, and totally unbothered. They don't need you to notice them, but you do anyway, because there's something quietly compelling about someone who's at peace with themselves. That's confidence in a relationship. It's about being like the person sitting on the bench, comfortable in your own skin, not needing constant attention to feel valuable. Neediness is the opposite. It's the pacing person trying too hard to be seen, always worried about what others think. And when you bring that kind of energy into a relationship, it becomes draining. No one wants to be around someone who's always seeking validation. Let's take this a step further. Imagine you're at a party with your partner. Instead of clinging to them the whole time, or constantly seeking their approval, you're having a great time on your own. You're chatting with other people, enjoying the atmosphere, completely secure in yourself. You're not concerned about where your partner is or who they're talking to because you trust them, and more importantly, you trust yourself. That confidence is what makes your partner look over and think, "Wow, I'm really lucky to be with this person." But if you're following them around the whole night, needing their attention every second, it creates an imbalance. They start feeling suffocated, and you start feeling insecure. Confidence lets the relationship breathe, while neediness chokes it. Here's a classic piece of Stoic wisdom from Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength in relationships. This means understanding that you can't control every interaction or every thought someone has about you. What you can control is how you show up. Are you showing up as someone who knows their worth, who isn't shaken by every little shift in attention? Or are you showing up as someone constantly needing reassurance, constantly looking for external approval? Here's another scenario. You're planning a weekend with your partner, but things don't go as planned. Maybe they need to cancel, or they're busy with something else. The needy response would be to feel rejected or disappointed immediately, jumping to conclusions about the relationship. But a confident person, they roll with the changes. They don't make it about themselves, because they understand that their partner's actions aren't a reflection of their worth. Instead, they use that free time to do something they enjoy, knowing the relationship isn't defined by a single moment. That flexibility and inner strength are what make confidence so powerful. Humor can also be a big part of confidence. It's the ability to laugh things off instead of taking everything so seriously. Imagine you're with someone, and they're late to dinner. A needy person might get anxious or upset, wondering why they weren't a priority. But a confident person, they'll make a light joke about it. Fashionably late, huh? Well, I guess that makes me the trendsetter tonight. That kind of playful confidence not only keeps the mood light, but also shows that you're not dependent on every little detail for your happiness. So, what's the takeaway here? Confidence is the silent strength that keeps relationships balanced. It allows you to be your own person, even while you're in a partnership. It tells the other person, I'm here because I want to be, not because I need to be. And that's where true attraction lies. To end this point with something motivational, confidence isn't about never having doubts. It's about knowing that even with those doubts, you're still worth it. When you stop needing constant validation, you become someone others want to be around. You radiate an energy that says, I am enough. And when you fully believe that, the people in your life will see it too. You don't need to chase them. They'll be drawn to you naturally because you're standing tall in your own power. That's what makes you truly irresistible. 5. The quiet power of listening. So folks, let's talk about something incredibly simple yet powerful, the quiet power of listening. This might sound too easy to be impactful, but trust me, it's a game changer when it comes to relationships. In a world where everyone is focused on what to say next, being the person who actually listens, that's pure magnetism. Imagine this. You're on a date, and while the other person is talking, you're really listening, not just waiting for your turn to speak, but absorbing every word, paying attention to their expressions, and understanding what's not being said. That's the magic of listening. It shows you value the other person's thoughts and feelings, and that creates a deep connection without you having to chase for it. There's a Stoic quote from Zeno that says, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen more than we speak." In relationships, this is golden advice. When you listen more, you create space for the other person to feel heard and understood. And here's the beauty of it. When someone feels truly heard, they naturally want to spend more time with you. It's like being a rare oasis in a desert of noise. Think about it. Who would you rather be around? Someone who constantly talks over you, or someone who genuinely listens and responds with care? Listening is one of the quietest but most powerful ways to draw someone in. You don't need to impress them with flashy words. Just be present and let your attention do the talking. Now here's your takeaway. Listening doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong. It's an act of patience, empathy, and confidence. So next time you're with someone, be that person who listens fully. You'll be surprised how naturally they'll be drawn to you. 6. Create anticipation, not anxiety. So folks, let's dive into our next point. Create anticipation, not anxiety. This one is all about how you make someone feel excited to be around you without making them feel stressed or uncertain. In relationships, anticipation is a powerful tool. It keeps the connection lively and engaging, but if you're not careful, you can accidentally create anxiety, which makes the other person feel unsure or uneasy about the relationship. Let's use a different example. Imagine you and your partner, or someone you're interested in, are spending time together regularly. Instead of following the same routine every time, like always going to the same restaurant or doing the same activities, you shake things up a little. One day, you might suggest something spontaneous, like going on a hike or visiting a new part of town they've never explored. You're keeping things interesting, but you're also giving them something to look forward to, something that breaks the usual pattern in a positive way. Now here's the tricky part. If you switch things up too much or act distant without explanation, it can create anxiety. For example, if you suddenly stop making plans altogether or become inconsistent without communicating why, that can leave the other person feeling confused or insecure. They might start questioning your interest or whether the relationship is still solid. But when you balance spontaneity with consistency, you create healthy anticipation. Seneca once said, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." When you create anxiety, it's usually because the other person starts imagining worst-case scenarios. But if you give them a little mystery combined with reassurance, you keep them excited without the stress. So here's the key takeaway. In relationships, creating positive anticipation is all about finding that balance. You want them to look forward to your time together, to be curious about what's next, but never feel anxious or worried about where they stand. When you master this balance, you become the person who adds joy, excitement, and comfort to their life, and they'll be drawn to you naturally. 7. The strength of softness. So folks, let's dive into our next point, the strength of softness. Now I know what you're thinking. Softness in relationships. How does that fit with the idea of strength? But here's the secret. Real strength often comes from being soft, not hard. When you're soft, you're flexible, open, and approachable. This is key to drawing someone in naturally because people are attracted to those who create a sense of safety and warmth. Imagine a relationship where one person is always rigid, always trying to control the situation or assert dominance. It creates tension, right? Now picture the opposite. Someone who's calm, kind, and willing to listen. They don't need to prove their point aggressively. They're confident in themselves and open to others. This softness allows the relationship to grow because there's room for vulnerability and people feel comfortable being their true selves. Lao Tzu once said, "Water is fluid, soft, and yielding, but water will wear away rock, which is rigid and cannot yield. What is soft is strong." In relationships, the same principle applies. Being soft doesn't mean being weak. It means having the strength to be gentle, to respond with patience, and to handle situations with grace rather than force. And trust me, this draws people in because they feel understood and valued. Now don't confuse softness with letting someone walk all over you. It's about knowing when to stand firm and when to let things flow. Think of it like a tree in the wind. Its strength is in its ability to bend without breaking. That's the kind of strength softness brings to a relationship. So here's your takeaway. In relationships, the soft approach is often the strongest. When you show understanding, patience, and kindness, you create a space where the other person feels safe to come closer. That's when the connection deepens, and they're naturally drawn to you, not because you're chasing them, but because you've made yourself a place they want to be. 8. Use your space wisely. So folks, let's discuss our next point. Use your space wisely. Now this is one of the most underrated aspects in relationships, but it ties directly into our core philosophy. Don't chase, draw them in. When I say use your space wisely, I'm talking about both physical and emotional space. It's about knowing when to step forward and when to step back, letting the other person breathe, and at the same time letting them feel your presence even when you're not around. Imagine you're at a social gathering. Instead of constantly being by your partner's side or hovering, you move around the room, talk to others, and give them the space to do the same. You're confident enough to know that your relationship doesn't require you to be glued together 24/7. That confidence creates an attractive energy. Your partner sees that you're independent, and trust me, that's magnetic. They'll find themselves naturally drawn to you because you're not chasing. They want to be in your space because it's not forced. Even emotionally, sometimes giving space is the best thing you can do for a relationship. When things get tense or you feel uncertain, instead of bombarding the other person with questions or over-explaining, take a step back. Allow room for the other person to come to you. Stoic wisdom tells us, silence is a source of great strength. Sometimes doing less actually does more in relationships. Now here's the motivational punch. Think of space like air. Too little and things get suffocating. But when you give it just the right amount, you allow room for growth, for curiosity, and for desire to build. Don't be afraid to let things breathe. The right person will always find their way back into your space if you create a healthy distance that makes them miss your presence rather than feel overwhelmed by it. That's where the real magic happens. 9. Lead with authenticity. So folks, let's talk about our next point. Lead with authenticity. This one is huge, especially in relationships. Authenticity is like a magnet. It draws people in because, let's face it, there's nothing more attractive than someone who is genuinely themselves. Our core message today is all about not chasing, but drawing people in naturally, and authenticity is key to that. Imagine this. You're on a date or hanging out with someone you really like. Instead of trying to be what you think they want, maybe pretending to be into things you don't care about or holding back parts of your personality, you're just unapologetically you. You talk about your real interests, share your honest opinions, and even admit those quirky habits you think might be weird. Guess what? That's what makes you stand out. People can feel when you're being real, and that authenticity is refreshing in a world where so many people wear masks. Here's a bit of Stoic wisdom from Epictetus. Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. This is exactly what authenticity is about. Knowing yourself, embracing it, and showing up as that person in your relationships. You don't need to put on a show to win someone over. In fact, the more real you are, the more you'll attract people who appreciate and value the real you. Authenticity isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest. And when you lead with that honesty, the right people will be drawn to you, not because you're chasing them, but because you're being true to yourself. They'll be intrigued by your confidence and self-assurance, and that's where real connections begin. So here's your motivation. Stop worrying about who you should be and start embracing who you are. When you lead with authenticity, you create relationships built on trust, respect, and genuine attraction. You don't need to chase anything because the right people will be drawn to the real you. That's your superpower. 10. Visualize their return. So folks, let's dive into our final point. Visualize their return. Now, this one is all about mindset. We've talked about not chasing, about drawing people in naturally, and one of the most powerful tools you have is your ability to visualize. Visualizing their return doesn't mean sitting around obsessing or waiting anxiously. It's about seeing the outcome you want, trusting that it will happen, and then letting go. It's the art of manifesting without needing to control every step. Imagine this. You're in a relationship where things feel distant, or maybe someone important has drifted away. Instead of chasing them or sending out desperate vibes, you take a step back. You picture them coming back to you, not because you forced it, but because you've created a space in your life that's so peaceful and fulfilling that they want to return. You're focusing on the feeling of them being drawn back, not because you need them, but because they're drawn to your calm, confident energy. There's a great Stoic quote by Epictetus. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Visualization is the first step in this process. Picture how you want things to turn out, then act in alignment with that vision. Don't waste your energy chasing. Focus on becoming the best version of yourself and let that energy attract them back to you. Here's where humor comes in. Think of yourself like a magnet. Magnets don't run around sticking to random things. They sit still, and the right metal gets pulled toward them. You're the magnet, and by visualizing their return, you're setting the intention without doing the chasing. So here's the motivational takeaway. Trust the process. Picture their return. Live your life with purpose and peace, and watch how they're drawn back to you naturally. Remember, it's not about chasing. It's about becoming the person they can't resist coming back to. Thank you for watching.